In the heart of a bustling city, Bola, a self-made furniture mogul, is thrust into a web of deceit and betrayal after a mysterious offer from the city's most powerful businessman, Chief Desmond. What begins as a chance for success quickly turns into a nightmare as Bola faces sabotage, rumors, and growing paranoia. When the shocking truth of a betrayal from within his own circle is revealed, Bola is forced to confront the ultimate question: can he trust anyone, or has his success been nothing more than a carefully constructed trap? As Bola races against time to protect everything he's built, the fight for his future turns into a deadly game of survival. Will he emerge victorious, or has he already lost everything? Watch this intense, emotional journey unfold. As Bola's furniture business continued to thrive, his reputation spread throughout the city, catching the eye of some influential figures. One of the most powerful was Chief Desmond, a well-known businessman whose wealth and influence were matched only by his ruthlessness. The first time Bola met him was through a visit at his shop, when Chief Desmond and his entourage arrived unannounced. With an air of authority and confidence, the chief inspected Bola's work, nodding in approval as he admired the craftsmanship. After a brief exchange, he made an offer. He wanted to buy Bola's entire shop, everything, including the business, the designs, and the property, for an amount that would make Bola far wealthier than he had ever imagined. The sum was staggering, enough to tempt anyone. But despite the allure of such an offer, Bola sensed something wasn't right. He politely declined, his gut telling him that such a deal might come at a steep cost. Chief Desmond didn't take rejection well. There was an unsettling tension in the air as the meeting ended, and Bola couldn't shake the feeling that Chief Desmond's interest in him went beyond just business. The businessman's smile was too cold, too calculating, and his offer felt more like a maneuver to control than an opportunity for growth. Bola left the meeting with a knot in his stomach, a sense of unease creeping over him like a shadow. Was Chief Desmond trying to buy him off? Or was there something more sinister at play, a power struggle in the making? Bola's mind raced with possibilities, but one thing was clear: the chief's offer was not just about money, it was a move in a larger game, and Bola had become a piece on the board. The question was, what would Chief Desmond do if Bola refused again? Would he attempt to take the business by force, or was there a deeper plot to undermine him? Bola couldn't be sure, but the more he thought about it, the more he felt the weight of danger closing in. Things began to take a dark turn after Bola's refusal of Chief Desmond's offer. At first, the changes were subtle, small things that might have seemed like bad luck. But the incidents quickly escalated, leaving Bola with an unsettling sense of vulnerability. The first sign came when his prized equipment at the workshop was sabotaged. Tools and machinery, which had taken him years to accumulate, were damaged beyond repair. The financial loss was significant, and Bola couldn't help but wonder if this was more than just an accident. He had no proof, but the timing seemed too convenient. Then came the rumors, whispers in the market that followed him wherever he went. People who had once admired his work now looked at him with suspicion, some avoiding his gaze altogether. He could feel strange eyes on him, lurking in the shadows, as if waiting for something. It wasn't just business that was being attacked, it was his entire reputation. As the days passed, Bola and Amanota realized that they were no longer the beloved figures they once were in the village. Their newfound wealth had made them targets, and every step they took seemed to draw unwanted attention. The villagers, who had once celebrated their success, now seemed to resent them. The admiration they had once received had morphed into jealousy and distrust. It was as though the very act of rising above their humble beginnings had made them enemies in the eyes of those who had never left the struggle. Bola's success, once a source of pride, had become a burden, and he began to wonder if the price of that success was worth it. As the pressure mounted, both from the sabotage of his business and the growing tension with the villagers, Bola felt increasingly isolated. The friends and family who had supported him seemed distant now, and the once tight-knit bonds of his village had started to fray. He couldn't go back to the simplicity of his old life, but was the cost of moving forward too high? The loneliness was becoming unbearable, and even Amenota, despite her unwavering support, could not ease the mounting weight of Bola's doubts. Every decision now seemed to carry consequences, and Bola felt trapped in a game he had never asked to play. Bola stood at a crossroads, torn between the dream of success he had fought so hard to achieve and the growing fear that it was all slipping away. Every step he took seemed to lead him further into uncertainty. The weight of Chief Desmond's influence pressed down on him from all sides, invisible but suffocating. Everywhere Bola went, he felt eyes on him, watchful, calculating, like unseen forces were quietly pulling the strings of his life. It wasn't just the sabotage at his shop anymore, it was the small, insidious actions that started to unravel him. Minor incidents that seemed trivial at first, a misdelivered order, a cancelled meeting, a strange phone call left unanswered, were adding up, creating a growing sense of paranoia. Each day, the feeling that someone was trying to destroy him gnawed at his peace. Though Chief Desmond seemed like the obvious culprit, Bola couldn't help but wonder if there were others with reasons to envy his success. In a city full of ambition, his rise from poverty to wealth had made him a target. He had become a symbol of both hope and resentment. His former friends, even some family members, now watched him with suspicion. There were murmurs in the streets, rumors about how quickly he had climbed, and who had helped him along the way. But even amidst the whispers, Bola's mind returned to Chief Desmond, in his ruthless nature, his cold offers, his ability to bend people to his will. Could the chief be behind everything? Or was he just the loudest, most dangerous face in a sea of jealous rivals? Bola's heart ached with the weight of the uncertainty. He had built a life for himself and Amenota, a life they had dreamed of, but now it felt fragile, like a sandcastle threatened by an approaching tide. Was he doomed to lose everything he had worked so hard for? Or could he rise above the mounting challenges, confront the hidden forces arrayed against him, and protect what was his? With each passing day, the stakes grew higher, and Bola knew that his next move would determine everything, his future, his legacy, and perhaps even his survival. The letter, with its chilling message, confirmed his worst fears. This was no longer just about business. Chief Desmond's intentions were far more sinister, and Bola's newfound wealth had made him a target. The letter was blunt, even cold in its phrasing. Leave the city, sell your business, and disappear. Do this, or suffer the consequences, it read. No negotiation, no compromise, just a clear demand. Bola's hands trembled as he set the letter down. He had known that Chief Desmond was ruthless, but this was something else entirely. The tone of the message was personal. This wasn't just about taking his business. It was about breaking him, destroying his sense of security, his life, and everything he had worked for. But as Bola sat there, grappling with the reality of the threat, a dark thought began to form in the back of his mind. Was Chief Desmond the only danger he faced? Or had someone within his own circle, someone he trusted, betrayed him? The suspicion gnawed at him relentlessly, feeding into his growing paranoia. He thought of the people who had been closest to him, his new business partners, old friends from the village, even some of his relatives. Were they truly loyal, or had someone been playing both sides? Perhaps someone had shared details of his business with Desmond, tipping the scales in the chief's favor. The more he thought about it, the more Bola realized that the web of deceit around him might be far more tangled than he had ever suspected. His enemies might not just be out there, waiting in the shadows. The betrayer could be closer than he imagined, and the price of his success could be higher than he was willing to pay. Him had pure intentions. Could the betrayal come from someone close to him, someone he trusted? Bola couldn't shake the growing paranoia that consumed him. The threats from Chief Desmond were terrifying, but it was the possibility of betrayal from someone within his own inner circle that gnawed at him. It was a fear that felt unbearable. He had built this new life with Amanota by his side, with the people he trusted around him, but now, as the pressure mounted, he began to question everything. He started watching his employees more closely, scrutinizing their every move. He found himself second-guessing even the most mundane interactions with his friends. Was there an ulterior motive behind every smile, every word? And worst of all, he began to look at Aminata, his wife, the one person he had thought he could trust above all others, with suspicion. Could it be possible that someone so close to him, someone he loved, was hiding something? The more he thought about it, the more Bola realized that things just weren't adding up. Why would Chief Desmond care so much about his small furniture shop? It was successful, yes, but there were countless businesses in the city, far more established than his own. Why had the chief singled him out? And why did it feel as though there was something deeper going on behind the scenes, something Bola had missed? The more he turned over the pieces in his mind, the more unsettled he became. In his search for answers, Bola started to uncover unsettling truths, small inconsistencies in his dealings, strange gaps in his own memory of recent events, and then, more troubling still, Amenota's behavior. She had been acting strangely lately, distant, withdrawn, as though a war had gone up between them. She was no longer the woman who had supported him through the hardest days of their life. Had the pressure of their new wealth taken a toll on her? Or was there something more to her change in behavior, something she had been hiding from him all along? The questions haunted him, and with every passing day, his trust in those closest to him began to crumble. As Bola dug deeper into the mystery, the truth came out in a shocking revelation. Amanota confessed that she had known Chief Desmond long before they met, and that their shared history went far beyond what Bola had ever imagined. She revealed that she had been manipulated into marrying him as part of a plan to gain access to his wealth. The confession hit Bola like a thunderclap, shattering his world. The woman he had trusted above all others, the one he had built his life with, had been working with Chief Desmond all along. His rise to success, his dreams of a better life, were nothing more than a carefully orchestrated trap. Bola's success had never been his own, it had been part of a larger scheme to use him as a pawn. The realization left him reeling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Everything he thought he had achieved had been a lie. The love he had felt for Aminata, the woman who had once seemed like his salvation, was now tainted with betrayal. He had been blind to the truth, and now that it was out in the open, there was no going back. Bola had been used, not only by Aminata, but by Chief Desmond as well, and the life he had worked so hard to build was crumbling before his eyes. Left with nothing but his broken trust, Bola now had to come to terms with the ultimate betrayal and figure out how to survive in a world where even those closest to him were working against him. Bola sat in stunned silence as Aminata's confession washed over him. Her words cut deep. "I never wanted to hurt you," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "I was caught up in something bigger than me. Chief Desmond promised me wealth and power if I helped him take your business." The truth hit him like a punch to the gut. The woman he had loved, the one he had trusted above all others, had been part of the conspiracy from the start. His rise to success had never been a triumph of hard work, it had been a manipulation. Bola's heart shattered as he realized that everything he had worked for had been part of a twisted game. Aminata's apology, though heartfelt, felt hollow. It was too late for regrets. Bola's mind raced, the pain of betrayal mixing with a surge of determination. He had been a pawn in someone else's game for too long, and he wasn't going to let it continue. No more. Despite the emotional wreckage Aminata had caused, Bola knew what he had to do. The game wasn't over yet. He would confront Chief Desmond, face the man who had masterminded this plot, and put an end to it once and for all. His success, his life, and his future were no longer for the taking. It was time to reclaim control. Determined to end the web of deceit, Bola marched to Chief Desmond's mansion, heart pounding with the weight of Aminota's confession. Desmond greeted him with a sly grin, his eyes cold and calculating. "I knew you'd come sooner or later," he said, pouring a drink for Bola with an air of condescension. "You must realize by now that you were never meant to succeed on your own. You were part of my plan from the beginning." Bola's fist clenched in anger, but he forced himself to stay calm. "You used me," he spat, his voice full of fury. "And now I'm taking back control." Desmond's chuckle echoed in the room, a chilling sound. "You think you have power now? It's too late for you, boy. You have nothing left." Bola's heart raced, but the defiance in his chest only grew stronger. Desmond's words were meant to break him, but they had the opposite effect. This wasn't just a confrontation over money or business, it was about reclaiming his dignity. "You're wrong," Bola said, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "I'm not your pawn anymore. You may have had your plans, but you'll never control me again." Desmond's smile faltered for a moment, but it quickly returned, though there was a new edge to it. This was no longer just a business deal, it was a battle for power, and Bola was ready to fight. Bola knew that confronting Chief Desmond directly wouldn't be enough to reclaim his life. Desmond's power and connections were too vast, and without allies, Bola was outmatched. After leaving Desmond's mansion, Bola took time to think carefully about his next move. He reached out to old friends, those who had helped him in his earlier, struggling days as a farmer. It was time to form a new alliance, one that could challenge Desmond's dominance. Among the first he contacted was Mr. Tony, the goldsmith who had helped him when he discovered the diamond. Together, they began to plot a way to take Desmond down, but Bola knew he would need more support to make this work. The question that lingered, however, was who could he trust? As Bola surveyed his group of old allies, he couldn't shake the feeling that things had changed. The bonds they once shared now seemed fragile, and the loyalty of some of his friends was uncertain. Bola was painfully aware of Desmond's ability to manipulate people, to twist their ambitions for his own gain. Some of the men Bola was now relying on could still be under Desmond's influence, and that made him nervous. In this world, where wealth and power ruled, trust was scarce. As he moved forward with his plan to take Desmond down, Bola realized that he had to be smarter, more careful than ever. Every step he took had to be calculated, and only then could he truly defeat the man who had turned his life into a battlefield. As Bola delved deeper into Chief Desmond's past, he began to uncover a trail of corruption, manipulation, and illegal activities that painted a much darker picture than he had imagined. Desmond's wealth was built not just on business acumen, but on shady deals, extortion, and ruthless connections in the underworld. Bola's investigation led him to a network of people who had been exploited and harmed by Desmond's actions over the years. The more he discovered, the more dangerous his quest became. It was clear now that Desmond had not just been a businessman, but a master manipulator with deep ties to criminal networks. This revelation made Bola realize that he had stumbled upon something far bigger than he had originally anticipated. Desmond was not just a threat to him, he was a danger to society itself. Bola knew he couldn't take on Desmond alone. The stakes had escalated to a level he hadn't prepared for, and the risks of moving forward were enormous. He began to reach out to trusted allies who could help him build a team strong enough to expose Desmond's criminal empire. But the threat of retaliation loomed large. If Desmond caught wind of what Bola was uncovering, the consequences would be catastrophic. Every move Bola made had to be calculated, every ally carefully chosen. He knew that the truth he was uncovering could bring Desmond down, but it also placed him in grave danger. The clock was ticking, and Bola had to move fast, before Desmond found out what he was planning, and destroyed everything Bola had worked so hard to build. With the information he had gathered, Bola devised a plan to expose Chief Desmond's criminal dealings. He reached out to a select group of trusted allies, police officers, journalists, and even former employees of Desmond, who had been wronged by him in the past. Together, they would help Bola bring Desmond's secrets to light. Bola arranged a meeting with Desmond under the pretense of wanting to join forces, hoping to trick him into revealing his darkest secrets. The plan was to have Desmond incriminate himself in front of witnesses, thus trapping him. The meeting was set for midnight, at one of Desmond's private properties, a location where he felt safe and untouchable. Bola was nervous but determined. This was his chance to end Desmond's reign of terror once and for all. As the time for the meeting approached, Bola's unease grew. What if his plan didn't work? What if Desmond saw through the ruse? Bola had no way of knowing if Desmond had already anticipated this move. The risks were high, and failure was not an option. Bola had come too far, endured too much, to let this moment slip away. Exposing Desmond meant reclaiming his life and freeing those who had suffered under his control. But Bola couldn't shake the fear that the powerful businessman might be one step ahead, ready to turn the tables. The stakes were higher than ever, and Bola knew that everything would depend on the success of this meeting. The night of the meeting arrived, and Bola's nerves were on edge as he stood outside Desmond's grand mansion. His heart pounded, and despite all the preparation, doubt still lingered. Would the plan work? Would he finally be able to turn the tables on the man who had caused so much harm? He took a deep breath and stepped into the lavish building, where Desmond awaited him with a knowing smile. "I've been waiting for you, Bola," Desmond said, his tone smooth and confident, as if he had already anticipated every move. Bola forced himself to remain calm, settling into the chair as Desmond motioned for him to sit. Hidden in the shadows were his allies, police officers and journalists, ready to act when the time was right. The conversation began innocently enough, but Bola skillfully steered it toward the dangerous ground of Desmond's criminal activities. For a brief moment, it seemed as though Desmond was taken off guard, but the shift was only momentary. Desmond's eyes narrowed, and a sinister laugh escaped his lips. "You think you can outsmart me," he sneered. "You have no idea what you're up against." Bola's stomach tightened as the weight of Desmond's words sank in. The man had been playing this game far longer than he had imagined, and now, Bola could feel the intensity of the challenge ahead. Desmond's demeanor shifted from confident to threatening, as though he was preparing for a showdown. Bola's allies waited in the shadows, but he now understood that winning this battle wasn't going to be as simple as he had hoped. Desmond was not just a businessman, he was a master manipulator, and Bola was beginning to realize how deep the danger ran. Bola's blood ran cold as he processed the full weight of Chief Desmond's words. He had walked into a trap, far more dangerous than he had realized. Desmond wasn't just a corrupt businessman, he was a criminal mastermind with connections to some of the most dangerous individuals in the city. Bola had thought he was playing a clever game, but in reality, he had unwittingly stepped into a much larger, more lethal one. As the tension in the room thickened, Desmond's sinister laugh echoed through the space. "You think you're the first to try and take me down," he mocked. "You're playing with fire, my friend. There's no going back now." Bola's stomach twisted as the walls seemed to close in on him, the weight of the danger pressing harder with every passing second. Realization hit Bola like a punch to the gut. His plan, carefully orchestrated and fueled by months of work, had crumbled before it even began. Desmond had anticipated every move, and now Bola was the one in danger. The room felt suffocating as Desmond's presence grew more menacing. The stakes had escalated far beyond a simple confrontation. Bola was now a haunted man. Yet even in the face of these overwhelming threats, a small flicker of hope remained. There was still a chance, a final opportunity to outwit Desmond and escape with his life. Bola's mind raced. If he could act quickly, and think even faster, he might still find a way out of this deadly game before it was too late. But with Desmond's reach and influence closing in, the window for escape was narrowing fast. Realizing that Desmond's threats were not idle, Bola quickly devised an escape plan. He knew he had to leave the mansion before Desmond could carry out his threats. But how? Bola had no allies in the mansion, and Desmond's guards were loyal and heavily armed. His best chance was to outsmart them. With a surge of adrenaline, Bola feigned agreement with Desmond's offer to work together, pretending to back down from his investigation. As he played along, he discreetly signaled his allies outside to create a distraction. This would give him the moment he needed to slip away unnoticed. Inside the mansion, Bola slowly made his way toward the back exit, every step tense with fear. The risk of being caught was high, but he had no choice. The distraction outside would hopefully draw the guards' attention long enough for him to escape. His heart raced as he reached the door, praying he could slip through undetected. The tension was unbearable. Would he make it out alive, or would Desmond's forces catch him before he had a chance to escape? The distraction had worked. Bola sprinted through the back gate, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the distant sound of shouting and the heavy footsteps of guards racing behind him. It was now or never. His legs burned as he dashed through the darkened streets, weaving between buildings, desperately trying to lose his pursuers. His mind raced with fear and adrenaline. Could he outrun them? Could he survive this night? He didn't dare look back, focusing only on the path ahead, hoping his escape wouldn't be cut short. Finally, after what felt like hours, Bola reached a hidden alley where his allies were waiting. They quickly ushered him into a waiting car, and in a matter of moments, he was gone, leaving the chaos of Desmond's mansion behind. But Bola knew that the escape was only temporary. Desmond's reach was long, and the battle was far from over. He had escaped tonight, but the fight for his life and his future was just beginning. After his harrowing escape, Bola knew he had to regroup quickly. He couldn't afford to stay in one place for too long, not with Desmond's forces likely on his trail. Reaching out to his closest allies, he arranged a secret meeting at a safe house. The pressure was mounting, and there was no time to waste. As they gathered around the table, Bola revealed the full extent of Chief Desmond's criminal empire. They needed a well-thought-out plan, one that would expose Desmond's activities and take him down once and for all. The room was heavy with tension, the air thick with the knowledge of the dangers they faced. The allies were nervous but resolute. They knew the stakes were high, and if they failed, the consequences would be disastrous. Bola's mind raced as he strategized. He knew they had to move quickly, decisively, and stay one step ahead of Desmond at all costs. The battle for his life had only just begun, but Bola was ready to face whatever came next, no matter the cost. To defeat Chief Desmond, Bola knew he would need a strong network of allies, those who had been wronged by Desmond and were willing to help take him down. As he reached out to former victims and whistleblowers, a powerful alliance began to form. There was Femi, an ex-business partner who had been ruthlessly betrayed by Desmond, and Damilola, a determined journalist who had been investigating Desmond for years. Together, they shared critical information and resources. The plan was clear: they would expose Desmond's criminal activities to the public. It was a risky move, but they had no other choice. Every step brought them closer to confronting Desmond and closer to the ultimate showdown. Trust became the most important currency in their fragile alliance, but Bola still felt the weight of uncertainty. Despite the team they had built, he couldn't help but wonder, could they really defeat a man like Desmond, or would they be crushed under the weight of his power? The fear was palpable, but Bola's determination burned brighter. With each passing day, the stakes grew higher, but Bola had no intention of backing down, not now, not when victory was within reach. With the alliance in place, Bola knew that moving against Chief Desmond would require careful coordination. As the first step in his plan, he made contact with Desmond once again, pretending to offer a truce. The message was clear: Bola was ready to put aside their previous confrontation and work with him. It was a dangerous game, but Bola had no other choice. By feigning an alliance, he hoped to gain valuable insight into Desmond's next moves. The truce was fragile, but it was enough to earn Desmond's trust for now. Bola knew that every word, every gesture had to be calculated, and he steeled himself for what was to come.